All right, so welcome everybody to Samudra Shakti Online. Wow, when I think about all the things we've shared together and the experiences we have, I am so honored to have Christina with us as part of this kind of remembrance and a voice of holding Anusara from the past to the present and into the future. So thank you so much, Christina, for being here. I want to introduce her. Christina Sell has been practicing asana since 1991 and teaching since 1998. She's known for her passion, clarity, and creativity. Christina's teaching style is dynamic and a challenging blend of inspiration, humor, and hard work. Talk about workshops, emphasis on the work when you're with Christina. Masterful at synthesis, her ability to harness and transmit the unique contributions of various yoga methods really is unparalleled. Christina believes that yoga practice can help everyone access their inner wisdom, their authentic spirituality, and clarify their highest personal expression. She lives in Bellingham, Washington, with her husband and 2 needy cats and the world's best dog, Locket. So I would like to move, let's see, now where are we? Up, I am having just a moment. Let's see where we are. Wow. I will bring, let Christina have.
Just stop your screen share.
Thank you,
Dory, just stop screen share.
Okie dokie. I'll try that. If I can find it, one moment. Sorry, guys. So you can edit this part out. There it is. There you go. All right, everyone. Welcome and take it away, Christina. Do we need to unmute you? Just a moment. I think we have unmuted you.
Yes?
Yes, we got you.
Okay, yay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Good to be here. Thanks, Maduri. I see
Welcome.
Lisa doing thumbs up, so something's going well. That's good for someone. All right, my name is Christina Sell. That's always a lot to get through, that bio. It's on the website. So it's a little embarrassing when you realize, like, I wrote that about myself, like it's just like a paragraph of self-bragging, and then I hear it written out. It's like, oh, it reads better than it speaks. Anyway, so I'm happy to be here with you all, and I'm going to do my best to move through some information for us that I think will be review for some of you, and hopefully whet your appetite for more, because this is going to be part of what we'll be covering in our workshop and deeper dive training at that event in Estes Park. So hopefully you'll go into that. Hopefully you think, I want to learn more sequencing. And even if that's not the case for you, hopefully it sparks your creativity. So the idea for our time together for me is that your creativity is sparked, and we see this as the doorway into strategies that you may already be using, or a new leverage into ways to sequence your class or to utilize modifications, or but not the boundary. There's way more that can be done than we could ever talk about ever, and certainly in less than an hour. So we'll scratch the surface, and then hopefully you'll keep scratching the surface as you go about utilizing whatever little nuggets you might get along the way. All right, so I'm gonna take a moment here and breathe deeply. Ask you to do the same so I can center myself. So okay. I have lots of thoughts in my mind, and I'm a fast talker. And so I wanted to slow myself down just a little bit. So thank you for those few deep breaths. When I was preparing for our time together, I was thinking about how in different asana approaches, regardless of what they are and how they're licensed and how they're labeled and what our various preferences are, there's usually exploration of what stays the same and what's changing. So we know this from our philosophical studies, as we have the Shiva principle, that principle of eternality, that singularity that's never changing. We sing about it, and we will sing about it again in our invocation here coming up, and we're describing this unchanging nature of reality that's at the very grounds of being. And yet all of us know we're getting older, circumstances are changing in our outer lives. Even the way that me, myself, as me sees the world today is different than it was 20 years ago. So even within the vehicle of me, there's something that's also changing. And not just at the physical level, but in those deeper layers of my being. And you know that from a lot of your philosophical studies, I'm sure, this is review, we call that the Shakti principle, the dynamism, if you will, of reality, the part that's changing, that has hot and cold, that goes up and down, that where prepositions function well. And that's in the Shakti principle. And so, or multiplicity, diversity, and the full spectrum of experience. And so we boil that down to asana. You can think of some asana methods that the sequence never changes. 26 poses done in the same order. And what you find if you do a practice like that for a period of time is you realize how much is changing within what's not changing. Like what you ate the night before, or the Ashtanga Vinyasa practice, also a set sequence. The poses don't change, but they are an incredible mirror for what does change. How does our mood change? How does our diet change the effect of our asana? How does the weather change? Because the poses create the stability. And then there's, you know how I was trained coming up from Iyengar yoga and then finding the methodology and the community of Anusara yoga, our sequences are not set. And so the sequences might change. Even postural expressions might change. We might do Trikonasana one day with a wide open hand and a big heart, and we might do it another day with a closed hand. And so we're exploring change, but then we're saying within all of that change, well, what's the same? Is my breath the same? Even within all of those changing patterns, we have the repetition of principles. We have the repetition and the continuity of awareness. And we're looking, okay, can I, even though my forms are changing and I might not know what's coming next in the practice if I'm in class, or even if but I'm looking for, oh, well, where is the me that's the same in all of that change? And so regardless of the outer shapes of, my opinion, my perspective is regardless of the style of practice, this is a very deep yogic inquiry. What's eternal? What's changing? What's everlasting? What is going to change? What is really, what's the word? Well, changing. But I had a better word before I blanked out a little bit. So one of the things I want to look at today is this repetition of shape. And because when shapes repeat, actions tend to repeat. And many times effects, you know, the physicality, the physical effects are also going to repeat to some degree. And so it becomes a really wonderful way to both prepare our body when we're writing a sequence, do something in one plane of action, but make that similar shape increasingly more weight bearing. And so this is a technique, not the only technique, but a technique of progressive sequencing that I use a lot. It can be funneled into waves of flow where you have a certain pose in a more basic form, and that shape gets repeated and woven in and deeper, maybe stanzas of a flow. So that's outside the scope of what we'll pretty much do tonight. I'll do my best to save some time for questions and creative explorations at the end. And so when we're looking for this, to me, bringing over this repetition of shape alive, we're bringing these two worlds of what's staying the same. The shape is repeating, but there's also a difference. And we're actually, to me, it's an expression of the great paradox of the yoga tradition, or what I understand about the yogic teachings is that both and. There is singularity and there's diversity. there is something that stays the same and there is something that's ever changing. And we're saying, okay, this shape repeats. It's both the same and it's different. And to me, that's a very good embodied practice of a very deep philosophical premise, as well as a very important life skill. We look and scale out from our life and community, let's say, where we can have different ways of seeing things and they can both be valid. That's a both and that serves us well and to keep our communities, from getting sick. We go out into our larger communities in our town council meetings, or even into the larger political spheres and the different streams that are happening that are really quite upsetting. So many times I go, oh, right, we have so much trouble holding both and. I mean, I could state more obvious things, but so it's not going to change necessarily how the elections go. It's not going to make us all agree on policy at these big levels. It's not necessarily by seeing how Trikonasana relates to Vashisthasana gonna make for world peace tonight. I am not suggesting that. I am suggesting that it's practice for something that is an important part of greater harmony and a skill that I can bring to be better prepared to hold paradox. And then I'm better prepared to hold paradox. I'm going to be better able to contribute more effectively in these very difficult conversations that need to happen, or maybe even just to hold the tension of joy in the midst of pain. And whether that's a personal circumstance or one that we're sharing. And so to me, that's about connection and about and seeing, and not just seeing the connection, but feeling them. So we'll do some of that together in asana. It's optional asana as always. And I'm not really teaching a class, so I'm modeling not that. So I'm not going to pretend I'm doing it all that perfectly, or you'll need to do all your good adult choices, please, about doing things that are good for you and staying away from things that aren't good for you, even if I'm not suggesting those things. But I'm going to do my best to take us in a little bit at a time and hopefully make an experience of these concepts that I've been outlining: singularity, diversity, and as well as what stays the same. And we'll go from there. I got notes. I got a plan. We have each other. Let's sing the invocation together. See, I got talking faster and faster. So now I get to breathe again and slow down a moment. Breathe deeply. You have two hands. They make one gesture. It's a both and. One prayer brought together in two things. Even our hands, very similar, and yet right hand different from the left. So we start to increase our awareness of this both and. It's a great paradox. You can see it everywhere. To me, this chant is a description of what holds that paradox, the great singularity that holds the diversity. And it's a reminder to me, and perhaps to you if you choose, point myself there. It starts, or can start, with the longing for that connection, to contribute to greater harmony, to increase my capacity to hold what's difficult with what's joyful, what's tragic with what's inspiring. To find a heart large enough to hold it all. Let's do one Om. Inhale. Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Sachidananda Ortaye Ishpapanchaya Shantaya Niralambaya Tejase. Bow your head to your heart, lower your hands to your legs, lift your chin, and open your eyes. Okay, if you are going to practice asana, let's start on all fours. I'm going to do a lot of this right alongside with you. So I have you on my screen. I can see the gallery, but I don't have plans to micromanage your practice. Mostly it's for you to move a little bit, feel, and see if we can link these up in and through our bodies, not just through our intellect. And it can absolutely be seen visually to good effect, even if you're not taking the shapes yourself. All right, on all fours, separate your knees a little wider than your hips. Bring your big toes together so that they touch. We took that one prayer that we started with in Anjali Mudra. And then now your hands separated more in the foundation. Take a moment at that foundation reverence. As though Anjali Mudra is now at the base. Keep that. Gently lift your chin up and bring your pelvis back to your heels. Push your hands down and forward. Firm your abdomen. Your tailbone, it's like a hook at the base of your spine. Draw it in and up. Now keep that. And curl your hands just a little bit at a time forward to get length along your sides. It's like let's say an organic energy cube. And rest your forehead on the ground. Come up to all fours. Here on all fours. Create length along your sides by elevating your shoulders slightly. And inflate the region right between your shoulder blades so that the natural curve of your thoracic spine is established. That gives you a little bit of that inner body bright, side body long work. All right, looking straight down, slide the top of your throat back. Grip the ground and pull from your hands up into your heart. Move your arm bones back. Roof of your mouth, your palate. Take your palate back, which will lift your chin up just a little bit, and draw your shoulder blades down. All right. Turn your toes under, lift your hips up and back. Adho Mukha Svanasana, down dog. Grip the ground, press down. Lift your armpits up away from the ground. Move your upper back in. Now here, push down and forward. Press your thighs well back. Get some length along the sides of your torso, some length along your midsection. Okay, join your feet and your legs together. Reach your right leg back behind you, so one-legged dog pose. Bend your right knee, bringing your right heel to your buttocks. Okay, come up on the ball of your left foot and step your right foot to the outside of your right hand. All right, we got down dog lunge here. And this is one of the primary shapes you're going to see a lot in this little sequence. Turn your left leg out and set your left foot down. Walk your hands around to the left so your torso, your arms are about at a 45-degree angle from your front leg. Well, that's placement. Grip the ground, firm your legs. Draw your feet towards one another. Those are your muscle energy cues. That's not the course, but just telling you. Reach your upper inner thighs, turn them in. Reach your inner thighs back. Widen your thighs out. As you push down and forward, harken back, think back to child's pose, where you push down and forward, tailbone, like a hook at the end of your spine, scoop it in and up. Now push your right foot into the ground, turn your right leg out and sit a little deeper. Walk your hands around to a lunge. Step back, down dog. Join your feet and your legs together. Reach your left leg up behind you. Bend your left knee, bringing your heel to your buttocks. Good. Come up on the ball of your right foot. Step your left foot to the outside of your left hand. Turn your right foot out. Set your foot down. Walk your hands around to the right. Down dog lunge. Grip the ground. Firm your legs. Draw your legs towards one another. Turn your upper legs in. Reach them back. Widen them apart. As you push down and forward, move your belly button back, your tailbone in and up. Push your left foot down and turn your left leg out. Sit a little deeper. Good. Walk around to a lunge. Step back, down dog. Bring your feet to the side edges of your mat. All right, lower your knees. Child's pose. Okay, lie down on your abdomen and roll onto your right side. I'm going to do my best to mirror you here, and I'm not always honestly awesome with rights and lefts anyway, much less mirroring, but I'll do my best and you'll do your best, and stakes aren't that high, hopefully. You seem like a generally friendly crowd, so okay. All right, so we got this next first pose, and we're going to watch for these repeating shapes. We got Anantasana. You're going to crawl your right arm out underneath you, so you get a lot of length to your underside, and then bend your arm, place your head along your hand alongside your head. Everyone's neck's a little different, of course. So if placing your hand on the side of your head creates too much bend in your neck, you just take your hand to your neck, or be of an experimental, exploratory mind to find a position that doesn't hurt your neck. If one doesn't come, you can't really get out of that. You can put a block on your head. So, all right. So here we go. Lift your top leg. You do that, you're going to get that sense that your outer thigh turns on. Those are your abductors. Now turn your leg out and bend your knee. All right, press your bottom foot down into the ground. That's going to help tone your bottom leg. Take your top arm right to your knee, outer knee, and turn your leg out against your hand until you feel your outer hip muscles, external rotators turn on. Good. Take your hand back down. Now, widen. Take your knee. Let's just move it as much as you can back behind you and get a little opening in your inner thigh. Keep turning your leg out. All right, great. Straighten your leg. Turn your leg in and lower it back down. Okay, other side. So, Anantasana is one of my very favorite poses. You get to lie down while you do it. Press your bottom toes into the ground. Pink toe side of your foot into the ground. Lift your right leg away from the midline of your body. So you get abduction. Turn your leg out. You got your external rotation. All right, now bend your knee. With a hand on the outside of your knee. Just not doing much with it. It's just a resistance. It's giving me a little feedback to turn your knee, your leg out. If you were to look down your leg, you'd see your foot start to come in this plane of action rather than disappeared behind you. Hold it there. Return your hand to the ground.
Keep turning. Bring your knee to any degree further back behind you as you can, and then slowly straighten your leg. Okay. Oh, what did we do? Yeah, okay. Turn your leg in and lower it back down. Good enough. All right, go to the first side. Same game. Lift your top leg. Turn it out. Bend your knee. Turn it out. All right. Now, from here, bring your thigh closer in towards your torso. With your top hand, grab hold of the outside edge of your foot. If you can't grab your foot, you can grab your ankle, it's fine, or your shin. And we just proved, so here's a progression. We just did it without grabbing. So you already know, I've already hopefully showed you, or you would be showing your students that, hey, it works without grabbing your foot at all. So it's not a key feature. Of course, also you could use a strap. All right, press your arm and your leg against one another. And turn your leg out to any degree. You can stay here in a bent leg stage. Or move your leg to or towards straight. If you have to choose between holding on to your foot or straightening your leg, this will work slightly bent. For this variation, go ahead, just keep your leg bent if you can't hold on and straighten, or slide down slightly. All right, great. Lower your hand, turn your leg in, lower your leg. All right, great. Other side. Lift your leg. Turn it out. Bend your knee in. Turn your leg out. Pull your thigh in closer to your abdomen, and with your top arm, grab hold of the outside edge of your foot. Push your leg and your arm against one another gently. It doesn't have to be a lot. Create tone there. Keep that and add the external rotation. You can stay here, work the bent leg stage. I'll bring the sole of your foot towards the ceiling. Next stage, be straighten your leg. All right, great. Let go. Turn your leg in, lower down. Come on up to seated. Then come up to standing. So Anantasana to me has cousins, and this is the next set of the cousins. It can be done without a grab. It can be done with a class. It's got cousins. It started, has a relative. So when I think about the repetition of shape and the repetition of action, a lot of times I think about it like a family tree or a lineage of poses, or so sometimes I'd say it's got cousins. It's got seated pose cousins. It's got standing pose cousins. And so that's another way to talk about these repetitions of shape. All right, so take your legs, bring your legs, step your feet wide and bring your arms out to your sides. Widen your stance, bring your feet underneath your wrists, unless there's good reasons for you not to do that, in which case follow that wisdom. All right, with your left leg strong, turn your right leg out and bring your forearm to your thigh and your hand to the side of your pelvis. So you were already here moments ago. Okay, that's my party trick. I have more. Firm your legs. And this goes back to our down dog lunge. Draw your feet towards one another. Reach your upper inner thighs back and apart. Good. Lift up inside. Give yourself a big full lift. And then bow your head to your heart. Draw your tailbone in and up. Push your foot into the ground. And as though your hand, even in fact, take your hand to your outer knee here and turn your leg out like it was the up leg moments ago. Now bring your hand by the side of your head, top hand by the side of your head, and straighten your arm. Come on up.
Turn your left leg in, right leg in, left leg out, bring your forearm to your thigh. Firm your legs. There's your muscle energy cue. Draw your feet towards one another. Turn your legs in, reach them back and apart. That's an inner spiral series. All right, with your inhale, get the inner lift. A lot of length through your spine. And with your exhale, bow your head to your heart. Take the top of your pelvis back, your tailbone in and up. Push your left foot down. Take your hand around to the outside of your knee like you did in that side lying pose and turn your leg out. Bring your right hand alongside your head and reach. There's lots of ways to line up a shoulder. I'm not, you could pick any little detail and work on it. Okay, come on up. Turn your feet straight ahead and step or jump your feet together. You could enter these again. There's so many ways to enter into the poses. Here's the next point I want to make, and we'll go through it. We went from bent to straight leg in side lying. So step your feet wide. We're going to go to triangle pose from a bent leg entry. We're going to sort of repeat that sequence. Turn your left leg in, your right leg out. Bring your forearm to your thigh. Your hand on alongside your torso. All right, the strong legs, firm them. Roll your legs in, back, and apart. Create inner length. Scoop your tailbone in. Push your front foot down and turn it out. Now, slide your hand to your front ankle. You could put any variation. It could be on the front, it could be on the outside. Just stay in here. Now grip the ground. Grip your ankle. And now slowly straighten your leg. Or move it towards straight, like you did in Anantasana. It might be that you stay with a slightly bent leg. Totally fine. Straighten it if you can. And twist your torso. Reach your arm up. Press down through your back leg, pull up through your top arm, inhale, come on up. Turn your right leg in, your left leg out. Bend your front leg. Do it again. Strong legs. Roll your legs in, reach them back and apart. I'm saying the same things, but these are just our basic principles, repeating pose after pose. Lift your ribs up. How much you need to do all of that, we know, endlessly refinable. Need to. Scoop your tailbone in. Push your foot down. Turn it out. Slide your hand down around your shin, grab hold of your ankle, grip it. Then like you're stepping on a gas pedal, push through the ball of your foot. Turn your torso, reach your arm up. Good, press down through your back leg, pull up through your top arm, inhale, come on up. All right, step your feet back together. So now, again, we would take a lot more time than we have because it's really hard to teach an hour-long class. And we already are well into it, and I want to have some time for questions. So I'm going to condense how I would actually teach it into several steps, so you can play around with this. If we look at this pose that we started here, and we turned our leg out and we straightened it, we added the clasp. We took it here, we straightened it. That pose is actually also Ardha Chandrasana. So Ardha Chandrasana is really this pose tipped up. And if you enter into Ardha Chandrasana from triangle pose and pause here, I've got a bent leg. And now I'm going to work my turning of my leg out. And you can stay in a bent leg position or straighten your leg. You can, of course, if you know that you need one, use a block. So if I were teaching Ardha Chandrasana, kind of following this sequence from the ground floor up, I would make that first piece of the bent leg its own pose. I wouldn't even straighten the bottom leg. Then the next time we went through it, as we were refining it, I would say, you can stay with a straight leg. Or, so you build in something, one of the best regressions, ways to go back a step, is somewhere along the trajectory of the pose. I know this is obvious for many of you, but if it needs stating, I'm stating it. All right, so Ardha Chandrasana, same, work in your bottom leg, just the same pose, tipped up on one side. I'm gonna do it this way, turn your left leg in, turn your right leg out. We can already go through it. Bend your leg, bring your forearm to your thigh. Slide your hand down, straighten your leg. That's your basic sequence. You can stay with that. You could even go back to Anantasana, same shape. All right, bend your front leg, reach your right arm out in front of you, come up balancing on your right leg. Pause, firm your right leg beneath you. Remember how you stomped your foot into the ground, you had your hand on your outer knee. Turn, scoop your tailbone in, turn your right leg out underneath you. You can stay there in a bent leg, or slowly firm your right leg and straighten your knee. Yeah. Good. We'll head back out in the same direction that we came. Bend your right leg, slide your right hand back to the side of your right foot. Take your left hand by the side of your head, like Anantasana. Now reach out through your left arm, reach back through your left leg, come down side angle. Come on up, other side. Turn your right leg in, your left leg out. All right, forearm to your thigh. Straighten your left leg, Trikonasana. Bend again, step into your front leg, come up balancing. Firm that leg underneath you, just looking in the, and firm your abdomen, scoop your tailbone under. Just draw the flesh of your buttocks down, that's it. You can stay with a bent leg or slowly straighten your standing leg. Yeah. All right, come out. You take your right hand by the side of your head, bend your supporting leg, bend your left leg, slide your left hand back by your foot. Reach out through your right arm over your head. Reach back through your right leg. Create as much length as you can in the transition to land well integrated. There it is, A+. Good, inhale, come on up. All right, onward we go. So here I'm going to show, without going through it, ideally in a class, because we would have, more time, and we would build a whole sequence with each of these steps. Here I want to show in Vashisthasana. Let's say I'm thinking of bent leg, straight leg, but I want to say I find it very useful that to build these things in before, rather than here's 5 options. So like I said, I'm not modeling the best teaching work. Anantasana is a non-weight bearing option. You just did it on the ground. Vashisthasana, you could be working this variation, of course. So all of these are ways that we would call the terminology like modify or regress. And then like so. I would make sure when I was looking around a room of people, unless I knew them well, that everyone had this form. Most people, where they were, I would want to know how Vashisthasana was going to go before I was going to say, and stick a leg up in the air. So I like a good dry run with side planks. So I'm just showing you your options. Here. 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 So that's where all that goes. If you're looking at that, it's the same pose. But you could absolutely next go around, practice it with your foot out in front, your hands here. And guess what? All of that work that we just did, it does not even have to be done with a class. Can be. It needn't be. Okay. Same shapes, same poses. I'll talk you through sticking a leg up there in the air. But you're going to be an adult, a really smart practitioner, and do what you need to do. Take an option that's good for you, including lying down. And then I have a quiz for you. All right, downward facing dog pose. Wiggle your feet back a little bit. Okay. You can, of course, lie down on your side. I'll talk you through a few options along the way. Step your right foot slightly forward. Turn on the outside edge of your left foot, reach your right arm up in the air. So you got a modified form there. Next, stack your feet. Next, lift your top leg, right leg, turn it out, bend your knee in. Yeah. Straighten your leg, grab your foot. You need to bend it to straighten it, great. Yeah. Those are good odds. Okay, good. Down dog. Lower your knees to the floor. I'm just going to give you my perspective on this too. In terms of outer alignment before we do the second side. My interpretation of the pose is that you want this angle at your shoulder and your torso to be a right angle. But when you tip that on your side, that means that your hand will be slightly out in front of your shoulder rather than your arm vertical. When your arm and your hand make a right angle, this angle is not a right angle. And so that's a little, for many people, a little bit more forgiving position for their shoulder and for their wrist. So that's why in the setup, just a little bit of wiggling your feet back and lengthening the shape of your dog pose can be useful. Okay, that's helpful. Great. All right, other side, let's do it. Down dog. Wiggle your feet back a little bit. There it is. Balance on your, step your, what we just did, the right foot forward. Yeah, left foot forward, just a little bit. Come onto the outside edge of your right foot. Push your right arm down and forward, lift your left arm up. You can stay with that or stack your feet. Keep a strong, active rooting through your bottom arm instead of having it, sort of retracted. You got to do that strong, active, organic energy. Next, lift your top leg. You don't have to, but I encourage it. Turn your leg out, bend your knee, stretch your leg up. You can grab your foot to bring it up or do an active range, up to you. Yeah. Anywhere along the way, what's the salient feature? Okay, good. Down dog. Child's pose. Okay, that was, like I said, a scratch of the iceberg. My question for you, before you ask me a question or two, coming up to kneeling, is what other poses operate? Oh, I'm about to give it away. What other poses would be in this family tree that I did not include in that sequence? Well, this branch of the family tree. Yeah, but even well, I'm thinking specific standing poses.
Well, tree.
So it shares on the one level. So I think this is good. On the one level, what we just did is a sequence that on one level is every what we would call lateral ankle pose. And those are the groupings of the standing poses like we did Viratu, Trikonasana. We did Ardha Chandrasana, Parshvakonasana, and I would put tree in that category. And the one I was thinking of, Warrior Two, yes, Udhita Hasta, Padangustasana. That's not just even that's not even a distant relative. You know, I'm looking for where are direct relatives for the legs. Here. 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 Here.
Padangustasana, go girl. Yeah, good job.
Yeah, right. So not that, because one of the good things about Anusara Yoga, I think, is we're already in a deep relationship with the relationship of the poses because we're threading the principles through them all of the time. So you know muscle energies in every pose. You're already working for singularity there. We're already in this game all the way. So this is like really specific shape repetition. Also, it has a supine relative. Suprapadangustasana out to the side, same pose. It has, in the inversion cycle, those are not really in vogue these days, but in the inversion cycle, you have Parshvaikapada Shirsasana, and same with a shoulder stand. There's the same split of the legs, Parshvaikapada, Sarvangasana. So in that way, your leg's doing the same thing in all of those different shapes you teach. And
why I think this can be really useful is because the repetition of shape can be preparatory in terms of take it out of weight bearing and get some opening for the body, but it builds in a modified form. Almost all of the arm balances, you know, homework would be on the hunt for, okay, where are the arm balances? How can I do all of them lying down? These things become very important to us. We have wrist issues or we have various levels. So if you have built into a class those regressions, and the regressions are done very well, the getting things to be harder in asana is very rarely the challenge, right? I mean, rare. In a few select communities, it might be, oh, how do you make the asana harder? I have such great strength and joint range of motion and no real injuries in my body. And I've got just, you know, a heart full of fire. So like I could do anything. There are people like that exist. I mean, they're not in my classes. Mostly we're dealing with our limitations and our capacities of varying degrees at any given time. So I have a list of all of this game that we could keep playing with different starting points, but the hunt for this, for the repetition of shape gives a whole bunch of ideas, not just for how to sequence and teach a given pose as a peak posture, but also how to, let's say you're not going to go through 5 or 6 steps in your class about how to get to Trikonasana or how to do Vashisthasana, but you know the person in the room with a wrist issue, you can give them Anantasana on the fly. It doesn't have to be that the whole class goes through it. Or over time, that student who's gotten that assignment enough times, what I like is when they're just doing it because they've now taken responsibility for their modification because they've been taught what those modifications are. They're no longer reliant on the teacher to offer them, or we have a shared language for how to do that. We start to learn as students, and we can, as teachers, help our students learn, oh, what's a repetition of shape that would get the thing done? Because I don't think the point is Vashisthasana. What would be the point? A good stretch for the legs, balancing, self-care, stable to the core. A lot of these can be accomplished in less extreme forms. If we start to say, oh, the pose is only part of, the pose is the entryway, but it's not the limit. I don't know if that makes sense, but is when everybody has the language of the principles make it easier. But that doesn't mean it's easy to get the language. Like that's the fine print. Getting everybody to have the language is not always the easiest thing. And so it's paradoxical. It's like it does make it easier when you can tell 20 people kidney loop. But until 20 people know what kidney loop means, you're saying, what do you mean inflate my kidneys? I mean, what does it mean to make my back body full? It's just no man's land back there. I got nothing. I know I have a back, but I can't see it. And so all of our teaching methods, you're getting some nods, I'm getting a witness. I mean, I can give a witness from this from as a student and as a teacher, you know, right? So, and some of you have heard me tell that story when years ago when I was in Atlanta with John Frenna, he was teaching and he was teaching an inner spiral class. And he kept saying in, back, and apart the whole time. You know, I was a certified teacher at this time. So this is like, I had already taught immersions on in, back, and apart. You know what I mean? I ostensibly knew what it was. And I did intellectually. I passed the test. And he's in this hotel room. He's saying it over and over again. And I went, oh. And he goes, what? I was like, inner spiral. He goes, yeah, that's from teaching. And I said, he goes, what do you feel? I go, it goes in. It moves back and apart. And it was like my concept met up with my experience met up with the concept. I believed, you know, I understood, but I actually felt the flow activated to that degree. And I offer you my self-deprecating story in case that's you as a student or that's you as the teacher. Like I just keep saying it, and it can be really hard. So that is why these little things like Madhuri is talking about, when you go, to me, it's the piece when the words that the teacher is saying can be experienced in and through my form, then it's a seamless kind of communication. It is the unity. And sometimes as Anusara yoga teachers, I believe, my experience has been, we get sort of criticized that we talk too much. But the thing is, if you're, you know, oh, you just want to do the pose and breathe and all that stuff, which is great. I like to do the poses and breathe too. But when my experience as a student is that when I know what my teacher means and I'm able to do it,
and I'm following along and able to activate it because there's enough practice and training and all of that, those instructions, they don't feel like too much because it's narrating my interior experience. It's not an imposition on the outside. It's actually speaking in this seamless way, and it's a very deep thing. Now, if it's moving too fast, I don't understand their cues, I'm not seasoned in my studentship with them, it can just feel like Charlie Brown's teacher. And sometimes I'm the student with Charlie Brown's teacher, and sometimes I'm the teacher sounding like that to a student. We're always going to, I mean, my experience has been, I have a lot of experience in both roles, like both sides of that equation. And so I have a lot of compassion for how hard it is to be a student and the difficulty of saying, well, I know what I mean by what I'm saying. But when the student has it click, it's like, okay, then we've communicated. And I think a lot of what this kind of work can do over time is start to make that, stitch that scene together. So you can go, oh, well, that's what she means by turn your leg out. Oh, and then the other piece, and then I will just be quiet for a moment. The other piece about this kind of progressive sequencing that I think is that it can build confidence for us as practitioners and as our students is, well, if I did it side lying and I knew how to find it there. Well, if I did it in standing poses and I could do it in Trikonasana, I mean, maybe not today, but maybe tomorrow I could feel it and do it in Vashisthasana also. And so you have this series of successes upon which to build this over time, as opposed to you know, the big leaps. And yeah, so again, we're scratching the surface. I think there's more to say than I could ever say, but that's what I have to say. Close, bring your hands together in front of your heart. Thank you very much for spending an hour with me and with each other. May this time together with ourselves, with one another, help each one of us feel that pulse of unity. May the recognition of that unity help empower each of us to express our individuality with greater freedom, with a deeper compassion, and with the courage to include others, see others, and welcome others to what it is that we share in our common humanity. May the process have joy. Be blessed with the grace of good company. With reverence. Namaste.